Folks, believe the signs. I'll tell you what I mean and then get into the latest home prices and insights for York Region for week ending November 22nd, 2023. Thousands of you watch these videos every single week. I assume it's because you like the content, yet 60% of you are not subscribed. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. So, believe the signs. Let me tell you what happened. There's a property for sale. Nothing's happening. No offers, very few showings. The property's been on the market for about 3 months. It's a $2 million property. It started off higher and it's come down to about $2 million bucks. They get a showing and they get an offer. It's like, wow, so much time has passed before they could even look and entertain an offer. Finally, they get an offer. It's kind of not where they want it to be, but they figured, let's try to see if we can make something of this offer. Let's entertain it. Normally, they would have just said, no, forget it, but they were entertaining this offer. So the sellers or their agent goes back and forth with the buyer agent, and they finally accept the offer. Now, it's a conditional accepted agreement, conditionally accepted. A few red flags here, though, let me tell you. The deposit was $10,000 with an additional $10,000 coming after it firms up. So the whole deposit was $20,000. Now, usually, kind of the norm, deposit is approximately 5%. That's not a set rule, and sometimes I've seen deposits at 3%, and sometimes I've seen deposits as high as 50%. I know it's nuts, but the buyer's trying to make a statement when they do that. Deposit could be anything. However, a $20,000 deposit, and it's $10,000 and $10,000 after it firms up, just feels really, really low on an approximately $2 million property. But the sellers go with it. There is a financing condition, which is normal, but the financing condition is for 10 days. That's not so normal. We're seeing financing conditions at around 5 days, 5 business days. But this is 10 business days. And there's a home inspection condition, which is also for 10 days for the length of the financing condition. Having a home inspection condition is normal. But this home now is being tied up in conditions for 10 business days. That's a long time to tie up a property. But the sellers had no actions. They're looking past these red flags of 10 business days of conditions and the very, very low deposit structure. And they accept this conditionally. Well, time passes during the financing condition. Close to the end of the 10 business days, the buyers ask for a 3-day extension. There's another red flag. Turns out they have money coming in from overseas and they're just working out the paperwork and they just need a few extra days to lock in the financing. That's what they tell the listing agent. And the seller's attitude is, you know, we've been stuck in here already for almost 10 days. What's another 3 days? So they accept that. Before the conditions are fulfilled, they ask for an extension. The buyers ask for an extension on the closing date. They say they need a bit more time now that they're looking closer on money coming in from overseas. They need a bit more time to move the closing date because they don't want any problems and they want to make sure that the money's in long enough for them to use it for the purchase. So they move the closing date in an amendment. And the sellers look at this and think, well, we've not purchased yet. So what if they move the closing date, out a bit, and they accept that? Now, home inspection has not been done yet. The reason the home inspection has not been done, many times buyers, which is kind of a smart thing to do, they'll deal with the financing side because that's free and make sure they're good with the financing and confirm up on that before they spend money on a home inspection. So that's what these people were doing. They finally book the home inspection, everything goes okay there, and they firm up on this transaction, which is coming on, it feels, with when you consider 10 business days, then a 3-day extension, it's coming on close to 3 weeks of being in a conditional, in limbo, basically, in a conditional phase. But finally, it firms up. The sellers are like, hallelujah, it's finally firmed up. And so the sellers, they go house shopping. They're looking to buy a house. Now, here's how I fit into this story. The sellers end up buying a property that I had listed for sale. So they buy that, they put the closing date, they match it up. I know this story and things that went on because of what's about to happen. When it was time to close on our property, the sellers had an issue. Those buyers that bought theirs didn't close. In fact, when the listing agent was trying to reach the other agent to say what's going on, they couldn't reach the listing agent. They couldn't reach their lawyer. Their real estate lawyer was not returning calls to the seller's lawyer. It was bizarre. Now, the red flags were there all along, yet those sellers, because they didn't have any action, they didn't have showings, they didn't have offers, decided to, I guess, compromise and accept what normally most agents or sellers would not accept. They decided to accept the circumstances, and it backfired on them. So it's a chain reaction. They can't close on the property I had listed, and it's kind of not their fault, yet they're responsible to my client. But those buyers that had money coming in from overseas somewhere, that asked for all these extensions, that, like, the problems were there. Folks, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Or I shouldn't even say if it's too good to be true. If the red flags are there, the fact that you have a set of circumstances of not being able to sell, or it's difficult selling in this time, doesn't change the fact that those red flags are still there. So be careful about that. Be careful about compromising your position and your whole situation that could put you in a financial situation, a financial hardship, because you were under pressure and you choose to accept conditions and situations that you normally would not have accepted. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. And if you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, you can book a time on my calendar. Either click up here or in the description below. Book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. Folks, just because you want things to go a certain way doesn't mean it's going to happen. The red flags are there. Believe the red flags. Don't let your pressures cause you to avoid what's right in front of you. Let's get started here. I have a quick summary. Vaughan, Richmond Hill, and Markham. These are for detached properties only. Average sold prices for week ending November 22nd. Richmond Hill is the low number, Vaughan is the high number, 1652 and 1729. 77,000 separates the high from the low right now for average sold prices. We're going to start off with Vaughan. Holy moly, 30 detached properties were sold. That's a phenomenal week. When we expect sales to be coming down, we've got a huge jump. Now, 30, I mean, look, it's not a ton of sales, but when you compare to 13, 17, 16, 30, it's a big surprise. I don't think anybody expected sales to almost double from the previous week, more than double from the week before that. 9 of those were sold at $2 million or more. So 9 out of 30 at $2 million or more. Average sold price up slightly from the previous week to $1,729,000. And it kind of looks like average sold prices since the beginning of October are trending up in Vaughan for detached properties. Let's look at that a little bit deeper. I've put an X on this crazy week there because it kind of doesn't count. The numbers are so abnormal that, you know, an average price of $2 million doesn't make sense. But yeah, this kind of looks like if we get rid of that, average sold prices are still trending up. But when you look a little bit closer, we've got weeks in here where there's 9 sold at 2 million, 7 sold at 2 million, 8 sold at 2 million or more. And when we compare to where we were prior to that, it's a little bit less, selling at 2 million or more. So overall, some of the more expensive properties are being sold, bringing up the overall average in Vaughan. Compared to last year, 1729 is actually 7% lower than where we were this time last year. And if you look at this time last year, 1 week to the next, average sold price went from 1.5 to more than 1.8. So something happened in that week a year ago to shoot average prices up. And compared to this year, it puts us 7% lower. The median price is 13% lower than where we were this time a year ago. Sales of the 30 that sold, only 20% sold at list price or more. That's much lower than where we've been in the past. Listings, although they were flat for a while coming out of Labor Day, post-Labor Day, since middle of October, listings have been trending down. Active listings, look, we can say trending down, but not by that much. They're gradually starting to lower. And months of inventory went from 5.4 to 2.9. So big drop, but let me explain. Months of inventory, part of the calculation is how many properties are we actually buying right now? And for this week, it's 30 versus how many are available for sale, and you divide one into the other, gives you months of inventory. Well, those weeks where we're selling 30 and those weeks we're selling 31, months of inventory came way down, 3.1 and 2.9. Those other weeks, 17, 13, and 19, months of inventory is way up there. So the question is, what's normal? What is it really? Well, this is what's really happening. However, we expect sales to find its groove soon. You know, we went from 17 to 30, went 13, 17, 30. If 30 is going to be the normal, then just, 2.9 is around 2.9 is going to be the normal months of inventory. I would suspect sales are going to be tapering down towards as we head into the holiday season, and I expect months of inventory to start climbing again. Here is Richmond Hill. 16 detached properties were sold, and that number, although it didn't jump up the way it did in Vaughan, has been climbing. We went from 10 to 14 to 16. These are not big numbers. These are not like, oh my God, the sales are so high. Still quite low, but it's headed up. 3 of those 16 sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price overall trending down. $1,652,000 is the average sold price for Richmond Hill, which is 20% lower than where we were the same week a year ago. Now, if we look at the numbers a year ago, that week we shot way up from one week to the next, and it's the same thing that happened in Vaughan. So something happened that time last year that we're comparing to that, you know, kind of throws the numbers off a bit. We said average sold price is 20% lower than where we were a year ago. The median price is 12% lower versus where we were this time last year. Of the 16 that sold, only 13% sold at list price or more. Listings, trending down. Active listing, sure, they're trending down, but barely. And months of inventory sitting at 4.4 months of inventory, pretty much a balanced market. Here's Markham. Sales of 22 detached properties. 4 of those were at $2 million or more. Sales hasn't really moved that much over the span of 2 months since the beginning of October. Average sold price, however, you could see it coming down. This is post-Labor Day, has been trending down. It's now sitting at 1,605,000. 1,675,000. 1,675 is 3% lower than where we were this time a year ago. The median price is 3% lower as well versus where we were this time a year ago. 22 were sold, 32%, almost a third sold at list price or more. So between Vaughan, Richmond Hill, and Markham, Markham's a little bit more competitive. Listings, down, trending way down. Only 22 detached properties were listed for week ending November 22nd. That's really low. Active listings, you could see it, you know, there's a big change between 315 and 237. It's a bigger change than we're seeing in some of the other areas, especially when we compare to Vaughan and Richmond Hill. Months of inventory climbed up just a bit from the previous week, now sitting at 2.5 months of inventory. For several weeks right now, months of inventory has been, except for this 1 week here, has been below 3 months of inventory. Now we say a balanced market is between 3 months and 5 months of inventory. But folks, it's not an exact science. There's a gray area in between each month, and you're going to find pockets in Markham, very busy, very active, competitive. You're going to find other pockets where it's more of a balanced market, and other pockets that are going to feel more of a buyer's market. Here's condos. Now this is for all of York region. 26 condos were sold. 2 of those were at $1 million or more. Now 26, it's up from the previous week. However, overall been trending down. An average sold price, scary number, 666,000 is the average sold price for condos across York region. 666 is 2% lower than where we were this time a year ago. The median price is 1% higher than where we were this time a year ago. And if you focus on the dotted line, which is a 4-week moving average, no question, prices are trending down. 26 were sold, only 12% sold at list price or more. Listings, they're flat for a while. They're now at 102 condos were listed. 102 condos were listed. Now Markham had 22 detached properties listed. Big difference in condo listings versus detached properties. Active listings, it's an argument to say that they kind of look like they're trending up actually, not trending down. So sales are low, listings are fewer. You would expect active listings to be coming down, but they're not. Months of inventory sitting now at 6.3 months of inventory. Overall, trending up. Here's a quick summary. In most areas, you can expect more of a balanced market scenario if you're selling or you're buying. In some other markets, it's going to be a buyer's market. It's so important to know the difference, and it's so important to know what strategy you're going to use if you're selling or if you're buying. And if you're just watching because you're interested, that's okay too. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.